Ghana is the world's second largest cocoa producer after Cote d'Ivoire, and the crop supports the livelihoods of about 800,000 farming families across the country. Cocoa is also one of Ghana's biggest foreign exchange earners. In 2025, cocoa exports, including beans and processed products, generated about 3.86 billion US dollars, almost double the 1.94 billion dollars earned in 2024. So in 2025 alone, cocoa exports, including beans and processed products, generated about 3.86 billion US dollars, almost double the 1.94 billion dollars earned in 2024, thanks to higher world prices and improved export volumes. The crop remains a key export commodity. Together, gold, cocoa, and oil account for more than 83% of Ghana's total export earnings, highlighting cocoa's critical role in the country's trade and economic stability. So, beyond exports, cocoa drives employment, it supports rural communities, it contributes to government revenue, and also provides raw materials for industries producing chocolate, cocoa powder, butter, and cosmetics. Experts say expanding local cocoa processing could create even more jobs and allow Ghana to earn more from its cocoa instead of exporting mostly raw beans. Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to the Afternoon Business Review here on Class 91.3 FM with me, Agyemah Prempeh. This is where we tell you what moves money and markets. So yes, welcome on board as we start the show, and let's start with our regulars. So let's check the commodity prices, how much crude oil, gold, and cocoa is being pegged on the international market. Crude oil has increased by $1 and is selling at $79, up from the $78 it sold yesterday. So for gold, if you're interested, yes, I have good news for you because gold is being pegged at $4,060 per ounce. So that's up from the $4,058 it sold yesterday. So it has increased by about $2. So crude oil has increased by $1. Gold has increased by $2. How much is cocoa selling on the international price, or in the international market, I should say? So cocoa is priced at $5,840 per metric ton, up from the $5,713 it sold yesterday. So cocoa price has increased to about $127. So those are the prices for you on the international market. On the exchange rate, the dollar is selling at 11 cedi 70 pesos and is buying at 11 cedi 69 pesos. The pound is going for 15 cedi 72 pesos and is buying at 15 cedi 70 pesos. Whereas the euro is trading at 13 cedi 47 pesos and is buying at 13 cedi 45 pesos. Please note these rates could be slightly different at the various forex bureau and banks. And as we do say always here on the Afternoon Business Review here on Class 91.3 FM, don't go to the black market, neither should you go to Accra, Circle, Airport, Tudu, or engage any middleman or guru boy, because it is illegal to do so, and this is coming from the central bank, that is the Bank of Ghana. So just walk into any accredited or licensed forex bureau, any commercial bank of your choice, and you can change your currency. Caitlin Dazi of Data Bank is on standby with stock updates.
The stock market started the week on a weaker note with price gains in 3 equities against 4 laggards. The top gainers were CPC, Das Pharma and Hordes, while ETI, MTN Ghana, SIC and intravenous infusions declined. Driven by the price moves, the Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index declined to a year-to-date return of 75.17%, while the Databank Stock Index declined to a year-to-date return of 89.6%. MTN and Casapreco traded the most, accounting for 68.08% of the market turnover after trading 1.43 million shares across 31 counters. For Databank Research, Caitlin Dazi.
In the studios of Class 91.3 FM, my name is Agyemah Prempeh, and the show is the Afternoon Business Review. It's now time for us to dash straight into stories shaping both the local and international economies. And let's start from Ghana, as the Ghana Private Road Transport Union (GPRTU) has suspended its planned transport fare increase following the government's intervention to reduce diesel prices by 2 Ghana cedis per litre for 1 month. The union says although drivers continue to face high expenses, increasing fares immediately could worsen the burden on passengers and create further challenges. Speaking to Class News, the Deputy Communications Officer for GPRTU, Samuel Amoa, said the decision was taken to allow transport operators assess the impact of the fuel price reduction on their operations.
Our decision of coming up with the increment, after the president's intervention of reducing the diesel by 2 cedis, and then according to the president, they are going to make sure that for 1 month, these 2 cedis will be reduced from the petroleum, that is the diesel, that is for 1 liter. And it means that if a driver buys, 1 gallon of diesel, he's saving 9 Ghana cedis. Actually, we find out that yes, where the fuel price, has gotten to, still the drivers are still suffering, and by the close of the day, their expenditures goes very, very high. But then we also thought it wise that increasing the transport fare right now will also, push everything to just go up, and it will go and come back and hit us. So we decided that, as the president is saying, we'll hold on for the meantime to see what will happen, within this 1 month that the president says he's giving this 2 cedis, this 2 cedis reduction on the diesel price. So, we have decided to hold on for now to see what will happen going forward.
So that's Samuel Ado, who is the Deputy Communications Officer of the Ghana Private Road Transport Union (GPRTU). On the international front, Nigerian billionaire Femi Otedola has signaled his intention to eventually secure majority control of First Holdco, the parent company of First Bank of Nigeria, after committing more than 600 billion naira, equivalent to about $432 million of his personal wealth, to the banking group. The declaration marks Otedola's clearest indication yet that his rapidly expanding investment in First Holdco is not merely a portfolio position, but it forms part of a longer-term strategy to take controlling ownership of Africa's largest and oldest, most influential financial institutions. His latest purchases have lifted his beneficial ownership to 25.87%, equivalent to 11.76 billion shares. So those are stories shaping both the local and international economies. So it's 43 minutes past the hour 12, and you're still listening to the Afternoon Business Review here on Class 91.3 FM with me, Agyemah Prempeh. It's now time for us to move to our big conversation for today. And today, we are talking about the Cocoa Bill 2026, which was passed in Parliament, or by Parliament, on Friday, the 31st of July 2026. So the bill paves way for major reforms in Ghana's cocoa sector, including a guarantee that cocoa farmers will receive not less than 70% of the free on-board export price by the Ghana Cocoa Board. So presenting the objectives of the bill on the floor of Parliament on Thursday, 30th July 2026, the Deputy Finance Minister Thomas Nyako Ampem said the legislation seeks to establish the Ghana Cocoa Board as the statutory body for responsible for regulating, overseeing and monitoring activities across the value chain.
Syndicated loan structure to finance cocoa purchases in this country. But following the mismanagement of the economy that led to our debt restructuring, Cocoa Board could not assess syndicated loans again. That forced Cocoa Board to resort to the buyer-led funding model. This bill is coming out with a new funding model that will let Cocoa Board source for funding locally to purchase our cocoa beans from our hard-working farmers. This new bill is bringing out a new arrangement where the beans will be available for our local processing companies. And the bill is saying that at least 50% of our cocoa produced here should be produced, in fact, should be processed locally to add value and to create jobs for our people. Apart from the policy announcement that government has made that we want 70%, a minimum of 70% of FOB price.
So that's the Deputy Finance Minister Thomas Agyemah Prempeh in Parliament last Thursday. He also explained that the bill also mandates Cocoa Board to support cocoa cultivation, undertake the buying, selling and export of cocoa and promote value addition within the sector. So today on the Afternoon Business Review, we've been joined on the phone lines by the co-coordinator of the Ghana Civil Society Cocoa Platform, GCCP, Obed Ozu Adai. Hello, Mr. Adai. Good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on the Afternoon Business Review.
Hi, my brother. Thank you for having me.
You're most welcome. So, I should say Friday was a good news for your sector. Parliament passed the cocoa bill. Today we want to have a conversation on that. So according to the Deputy Finance Minister, we played his voice earlier on. He mentioned that this new bill is going to pave way for major reforms in Ghana's cocoa sector, including a guarantee that cocoa farmers will receive not less than 70% of the free on-board export price by the Ghana Cocoa Board. So for you being a cocoa think tank, first off, what's your reaction to the passage and the details contained in this document?
Well, once again, thank you very much for having me, and a good afternoon to our listeners. I must start by saying that it is great news to have heard last Friday that the Cocoa Board bill, now almost an act, has been passed, and one needs to understand where this originated from. We had a bill or an act that was passed in 1984, the Cocoa Board Act, Act 81, which was passed in 1984. It's been in existence for about 42 years. And you and I will understand that over the past 42 years, a lot has changed. There is internet, there is TikTok, there is foreign exchange, depreciation, and all those issues have changed. And so there was a need to revise the law. So the revision of the law or the passage of a new act is a breath of fresh air in the sector. We welcome it wholeheartedly. Having said that, when you go into the details of the law, there are several progressive, forward-looking provisions in the law that will transform the cocoa sector, and that will benefit cocoa farmers, and that will make the sector robust and resilient moving forward. And we welcome all these new provisions. I must also say that there are one or two provisions in the law that are becoming contentious, that we would have hoped that we got the opportunity to engage Parliament on those issues before they pass this. But all in all, we welcome the law and we look forward to working with the Cocoa Board and Parliament to enact the necessary regulations to give enforcement to this law.
Right, so you did mention that there are some things in the bill that you would have loved to engage the government further on, possibly for a change or not. So what exactly did GCCP cite in that bill, that document, that you would have hoped to have had a conversation or a broader conversation with the government on?
Well, yesterday we were at Cocoa Board. I was there personally. We met with the CEO, Dr. Randy Abe, and this conversation, what I'm about to have with you, we had it together with him. We raised those issues, and they did acknowledge some bit of it. The first thing that we have realized, when you look at clause 80 of the new Cocoa Board bill, they are designating cocoa farms as protected farms. That the word, the terminology they are using is protected farm. And then when you come to 81.1, they are designating, or they are explaining what you can do and cannot do in a protected farm. And one of the key challenges or problems we are having is that The law under clause 811 is saying that when you have a cocoa farm, you cannot convert the cocoa farm to any other farm except if you write to the Minister for Finance for approval before you can change your land use. What this means is that this bill or this Cocoa Board Act is indirectly contravening existing land use plans or land use laws that are in the country. For example, if I'm a farmer, I go to a landowner and acquire a land to make a farm. I should have the liberty and the freedom to change the crop I want to change. You can't tell me that produce cocoa all your life and that you don't have the authority to change from producing cocoa to any other crop, except if you have written to the minister for his approval before you can change that. We think that is wrong and that is not fair to the farmer, especially in the face of what we as sector players, we are preaching to the farmer that they should diversify. We are telling cocoa farmers that you cannot depend on cocoa all your life. You need to diversify so that in seasons that cocoa doesn't do well or the price is low, you can have other crops to augment your household income. So in one breath, this is what we are preaching to cocoa farmers. Then we go to make a law that is saying that no, you cannot convert your farm from cocoa to any other crop. We understand their intention. The intention is to protect the cocoa farmland from illegal miners, galamseyers, and other destructive tendencies. But making such a law with such a far-reaching consequences will be very, very detrimental to the sector, and we would have wished that we had engaged or we had opportunity to engage Cocoa Board on these provisions. And there are other provisions. For example, the pension scheme, the provisions that are in there, where the contribution will be coming from, because the previous law or the policy that existed was that Cocoa Board was going to use profits that they make to make contributions into the pension scheme. We also know that in times past, they were deducting kilos from farmers. But right now, as it is now, it is not clear where the funding for the pension scheme will be coming from and who is going to contribute, how long do you need to contribute to become a beneficiary. All these things would have been better discussed with farmers and farmer groups to have a clarity before it was passed into law. So these are some of the few things that are coming up.
Right. So the minister in Parliament also did mention that the legislation provides a clear legal framework for the Producer Price Review Committee and its associated technical structures to strengthen the process for determining producer prices. So from where you sit, how will this new law strengthen Cocoa Board's operations and financial stability in the wake of this whole PRRC and price determination for farmers?
Well, I hate to be the one to break it to you, but once the president signs this bill into act, the PRC, the Producer Price Review Committee, becomes defunct, or it will not exist anymore. What they used to do was to negotiate. Now there's a law. The law is clear formula. So the Producer Price Review Committee will become defunct and will not exist anymore. But what we welcome is that for a very long time, the PPRC has been working with a policy, and the policy was that they give farmers not less than 70%. But we also know that there have been several instances that they did not give 70%. But that was a policy. They could not be held accountable in law. But now it has been legislated, which means that if, let's say, the next season, which starts in September, the realized FOB, and this is what farmers need to understand, what Cocoa Board or the law is saying is that it's not the international market price. The FOB we are talking about is not based on international market price. It's based on the realized FOB, how much Cocoa Board sold the beans. So it could be that on the international market, the price of cocoa over the season was probably $10,000. But Cocoa Board, through their forward sales, might have sold the beans at $7,000. So it will be based on $7,000, 70% of the $7,000 that farmers will be paid, and not based on the international market price of $10,000. That is what it means. But for us, what we are happy about is that now there is a law, and that we can use to engage Cocoa Board, and we can take them to court in the event that they fail to live up to the provisions in the law. And for us, that is a very good thing. The other very good thing is the financing mechanisms for purchasing cocoa in Ghana. This season, we have had one of the most challenging seasons ever because there was a lot of breakages and inconsistencies in cocoa financing.
Right.
What this new law is doing is that it is making provisions for getting local bonds and money from raising funds domestically to buy cocoa, which is very, very good for the cocoa sector.
Right. So, would this encourage or discourage private sector investment in cocoa processing? Because, according to the minister and explaining the bill, Cocoa Board would have the sole mandate to support cocoa cultivation, undertake the buying, selling, and export of cocoa, and also promote value addition within the sector. Would this encourage or discourage private sector investment?
No. It will not. In fact, it will encourage private sector investment, especially domestic private sector investment, because we know from the law or from the new act that now we are promoting minimum of 50% domestic processing of the cocoa. And if you want to process, government cannot process all the beans. You need private sector involvement and investment in the processing sector. Again, when it comes to the buying of the beans, government will depend on the licensed buying companies who are mostly private sector to handle the purchasing of the beans from the community level to the district level before making them available at the warehouses for cocoa board. So this law actually encourages and promotes private sector involvement, which we have been asking for. We thought that, we have always said that Cocoa Board had become a superstructure. They were the alpha, the omega, and everything within cocoa sector. This law, although not very explicit, it does open a window of opportunity for private investment and private participation within the cocoa space, especially the processing and downstream processing, and also the trading and selling of cocoa beans, which we welcome because we foresaw that we cannot have a robust cocoa sector when we entirely depend on government and government financing. So allowing private sector involvement, we welcome that, and we think that it will go a long way to help the farmer become more self-sufficient and also get more money from the sector.
Right. So before I let go of you, Mr. Uso Adai, in terms of cocoa farmers receiving not less than 70% of the FOB, that's a free on-board export price by Cocoa Board. For me, I'm not in the sector, but I feel it's a good news. How are your members or how are the players in the sector also reacting to this development or announcement from the government, I should say?
Well, since yesterday, we have been on several platforms with our farmers. We've been discussing this. The farmers are excited. The farmers are happy about this new law. And what we are most excited about is the fact that this is the act. It gives the broader vision, but there is going to be the legislative instrument, the LI, the regulation, which will explain into details and also give guidelines for how all these things are going to be implemented. And yesterday, when we met Dr. Randy Abe, he indicated that they will come to us, the farmers, and engage with us in developing the guidelines and the regulations, and we welcome that. And so, yes, we are happy. Just that we also see that there are some troubling elements within the law that it could have been done better. We could have worked, if we had worked on it together, we could have made it more efficient for the farmer. But all the same, the law in its totality is a good law, and we welcome it wholeheartedly.
All right, very well. Thanks for your time and thanks for speaking to us on the Afternoon Business Review.
Thank you for having me.
So you had the co-coordinator of the Ghana Civil Society Cocoa Platform GCCP, Obed Owusu Adai. So yes, we're having a whole conversation about the cocoa bill, which was passed in Parliament on Friday, the 31st of July, 2026. And you had my guest on the show this afternoon on the Afternoon Business Review, who is the co-coordinator of the Ghana Civil Society Cocoa Platform, GCCP, Obed Owusu Adai. That's how we wrap up today's edition of the Afternoon Business Review here on Class 91.3 FM with me, Agyemah Prempeh. As we do say always, you don't need a dictionary to understand business news. Catch us same time tomorrow from 12:30 till 1 p.m. as we discuss business over lunch. Good afternoon.